What's going on, everyone? I'm Ravi Abuvala, founder of Scaling with Systems, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about what key performance indicators are, how to track them and measure them inside of your business, and why they are of the utmost importance in order for you to scale. So KPIs, or key performance indicators, are the lifeblood of any sort of tracking you're going to do inside of your business. The very most powerful CEOs in the world admit to having what's known as a scorecard, like a baseball scorecard, of 10 to 12 KPIs that they can check on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, and they'll know the exact health of their company and if they're moving up or falling down. So with that being said, let's talk about what is a KPI, what makes a KPI great, and then some specific examples of KPIs that I personally keep on my scorecard for my 7-figure businesses. So what is a KPI? A KPI is the key performance indicator, and the idea behind it is just that. It is the key, so one of the main things you need to look at to understand how the performance of something is going. So you should look at this number and understand whether something is working or not working, or understand if you should be spending more time in this area or leaving this area alone. Some really popular examples of KPIs can be number of cash collected this month versus number of cash collected last month, or number of refunds we had this month versus number of refunds we had last month. So what are some characteristics of some really great KPIs inside of your company? So first and foremost, you need to figure out what exactly are you planning on doing with this KPI. A lot of people love to just use data for data's sake, or create key performance indicators for key performance indicators' sake, and they end up having 30, 40, 50 key performance indicators, when in reality, none of them are now key anymore because there's 30 or 50 of them. Data is really only as good as the decisions that you make from it, so make sure you don't overwhelm yourself in this exercise by creating 50 different numbers that you have to look at, because it's not going to really let you know what's working, it's what's not working, and it's going to let you create decisions or make decisions in your company based on this data. The second characteristic of a great key performance indicator is it's easily measurable. Some examples of easily measurable key performance indicators could be number of booked appointments that we have this week, or number of new customers that we sold this month. You can easily look in your calendar or your merchant processor and figure out what that number is. On the flip side, a more difficult key performance indicator that's not that measurable could be what is the average retention of a customer who sees this sort of email after landing on this sort of page and talking to this person. Now, while some of the largest companies in the world, like Facebook, actually do split tests and figure out key performance indicators based on that granular level of insights, I don't recommend you do it because you don't have the assets or the human capital that Facebook does. And so we want to make sure the numbers that we're using are just really easy to calculate or find. The third characteristic of a great KPI is making sure that it's tied to some sort of target or goal. As I said in the beginning, just having data or numbers for data or numbers' sake is useless. You should be leveraging your KPIs to say, hey, we have 3 new clients this month and I want 10 by the end of the month. Or how many of this number do you want and by what time do you want it? Another key characteristic of a great KPI is frequency. How often should you or your employees be reporting on this KPI, and how frequent should changes be made on it? Inside of our company, and what we teach our clients at Scaling with Systems, is we should really be looking at KPIs on a daily or weekly basis, and we're making decisions based on those KPIs on a monthly or quarterly basis. So for example, if we're trying a new lead generation channel out, let's say email, and we're figuring out that in the first few days or first week, it's not really fruitful, there's not too many booked appointments from it, well, I'm not going to end it at the end of that first week, because although I'm reporting on it, understanding it on a daily or weekly basis, I'm really only making decisions on a monthly or quarterly basis, so I make sure there's enough data in there for me to make an accurate judgment. The final characteristic of a really great KPI is making sure that you're measuring them against something else as a percentage of change. Using the characteristics above, let's say that we're just trying to figure out how many sales calls our sales reps are taking on a daily basis. It's definitely a key number we need to know inside of our company. It's easily measurable. My sales guys do have goals of hitting a certain amount of sales calls on a daily basis, and we're going to know it or learn it or check on it every single week to see where they're at. Now, if my sales rep came to me and said, hey, on average, I had 2 sales calls a day this week. Well, if I just looked at that number alone, I could be like, oh, great, that's awesome. Or I could be like, oh, no, that's terrible. And the reason is I don't have anything to compare it to. If last week the rep only had 1 sales call per day, day, and this week he has 2 sales calls per day. That is an improvement, and that actually is good. If, however, last week the rep on average had 8 sales calls a day, and now he has 2 sales calls a day, that's a lot worse, and that's bad. So make sure for your key performance indicators, whenever you're reviewing them, you make sure your team or you puts them next to the previous week, the previous month, or the previous period, so you know, are you improving or are you going down in your performance? Now, really quickly, I'm going to list off some of the KPIs that I track on my scorecard as a CEO of both of my companies. Some ones we look at are number of new leads generated this week versus last week, number of appointments booked this week versus last week, number of appointments taken this week versus last week, number of deals closed this week versus last week, number of total cash collected this week versus last week, number of support tickets that we had sent to our support ticket CRM this week versus last week, number of complaints from those support tickets we had sent this week versus last week. For us specifically, we care about number of new virtual assistants being trained every single week versus number of new virtual assistants being trained last week. And then finally, number of fully trained available virtual assistants that have gone through our training and are ready to work with our clients versus that same number last week. I actually want to challenge everyone watching this video to write down 3 or 4 KPIs that you can look at inside of your business, and then go back 2 to 3 months in the past and figure out, are you improving from those numbers, or actually are you going down in those numbers? This will help you make accurate decisions on what you should do for new lead generation channels, new products or services, or maybe even hiring or firing employees. If you guys want some more training around scaling your company to 7 figures, what kind of lead generation channels you should be using, how to craft your messaging, what kind of assets you should have, your pricing or your product and market fit, I want to invite you to click the link in the description below, and you'll get access to my free 3 Steps to Scale course. It's about 6.5 hours worth of content, totally free, that you can use and consume in order to take action on some of these things today. Finally, if you guys got some value out of this video, I always invite you to give it a thumbs up. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below and turn on the notification bell, and maybe share it with somebody else that you know needs to have some key performance indicators inside their company. Finally, be sure to check out some of the additional videos that I have on the screen in front of you here, as they will help you better understand the steps you need to take in order to grow your company. I'll talk to you guys very soon.